Sorry, folks. Back again. Let's try again. Let me. Sorry about that. There we go. There she is. Okay, so let's bring her on. Hi, Michelle. There we go. So you need to like. Can you see the invite, Michelle?
There we
Yeah.
are. Yes, it was.
There we are. Okay.
I'm fine. How are you, fella?
Good, I'm good. Great. Okay, everybody, here we are. We're back on. Okay.
Hello.
The place from school to training to all work.
Fella.
And then I forgot my glasses. Can you imagine? So I'm busy squinting.
Yes, squinting.
But anyway, I'm all good. Okay, everybody, thank you for joining us. And we have the lovely Michelle. True confession, I've not met her in person. And then
it's okay. We have over WhatsApp. It's fine.
Said, oh, don't come after me after this to be looking. So that's it. Okay. So as usual, what we're going to do is let Michelle introduce herself, and then we'll have the conversation around how she's been coping, her sister, and all that. Like we do, it's free flowing. If she says something that needs to be amplified, as usual, I'll jump in and just prompt her to speak a little bit more around it. Okay, so the floor is yours, Michelle.
Okay.
Introduce yourself. They don't know
Hello,
you.
everyone. Hello. Good evening. My name is Michelle Dede. I am a TV host, an actor, a voiceover artist, and an MC, an event MC. And more importantly, which is why I'm here today, I am the sister of someone on the autism spectrum.
Thank you. So when we did the Right for Autism in April, which was the April Autism Awareness Month, beg your pardon, we wanted to come on, but of course busy. So, and for us, awareness doesn't just end with the April.
Of course.
It's ongoing message that we need to be preaching, okay? That. So when it comes to awareness, what do you think is the level of awareness within our community, in the country, and generally? What would you?
To be honest, I think that it's improved greatly. Initially, when I first moved here, in fact, before I moved here, when I first started coming to Nigeria as an adult, I was quite surprised that there weren't as many schools, centers, and to be fair, maybe that was naive on my part because I was coming from the UK, where obviously there was a lot more available for those who had loved ones on the spectrum. So I was surprised at how there were so few resources here when I initially came. But then when I moved here in 2010, I started actually seeking out to find out whether there were those resources, and I found that there were places. I mean, GTV, for example, does the autism awareness event that they do every year, and also through Mrs. Akande of Patrick's, I discovered a lot more. So in my opinion, it's improved greatly. Obviously, it's not where, for example, where they are in the West, but I think it's a lot better than it was when I first came here. And also a lot more people are starting to talk about it, talk about their personal experiences, including those who don't have loved ones that are on the spectrum, but have decided to start organizations or centers for those on the spectrum. So there are great improvements, I think, more so probably in Lagos. I know that there's a center in Port Harcourt because several years ago I went there, and that's run by Beauty in Port Harcourt. And So she has a center there. She helps lots of families, and she has no loved ones who are on the spectrum. She's just led out of passion to do so. So I feel that it would get better when there are more options for people in other cities aside from, Lagos. And shockingly, which actually came as a surprise to me, there aren't as many resources in Abuja. Um, so I think that there really needs to be improvement there, and I guess that that's possibly only going to happen if someone decides that they're going to open a center there, or perhaps someone with a loved one who's on the spectrum decides, okay, I'm going to do something to make sure that people actually have access here in Abuja. But we definitely need more cities around the country, but there's definitely a great improvement.
Okay. Thank you very much. So you compared, so this is like 10, 20, 13, about 10 years ago, between 10
Yes.
to ago, roughly, and all the improvement. Now, let's think about the openness, okay, to discuss this amongst families and people that have either individuals who are on the spectrum as siblings, like in your instance, or even when you compare what was going on then and now, what would you say? So has it changed?
I think that has also improved. I can't say that I'm satisfied, but then maybe that's just me. I think that a lot more can be done. I remember when, oh goodness, that was years ago when I first went to the GTB event, and Mrs. Akande from Patrick's had asked me to speak at the event. A lot of people, a lot of parents, predominantly parents. I didn't meet any siblings, but predominantly parents came up to me afterwards and they said, you're so brave for speaking out publicly about your sibling, about your experiences, and I was in shock. And I think again that was me possibly not really understanding it from their perspective, because the way I grew up was different. I grew up in a different environment. It was also, I grew up abroad. So, and then also my father was, very willing to answer questions, which I asked quite a bit as I was growing up. So because we had those conversations, it wasn't something that I felt I should be ashamed of or uncomfortable speaking about in public. So I did try and look at it from their perspective, and understand that, okay, your situation was different. Their situation is different because they live in Nigeria, because there's a lot of stigma, and a lot of people are embarrassed or ashamed. So for me, it was the importance of speaking about not being ashamed. And I remember one of the things that I said, which was something my father said to me when I was 13, and I had asked him about my sister, who's older than me, Mickey. She's on the spectrum, and I had said, why is it that she's different? Some of my friends are making fun of me because I have a sister who's on the spectrum. And he said to me, if your friends, your so-called friends, are not going to accept you because of your sister or accept your sister, then they're not your friends. And that stuck with me. And that's something that stuck with me, which is not an easy thing for a teenager to hear. But because he reinforced that message, it stuck with me from childhood to adulthood. And so I was never ashamed to tell my friends or even boyfriends, I have a sister that's on the spectrum. And if for any reason they wanted to treat me like I was less than or make me feel ashamed, I didn't allow it. And I was a very different person when I was younger than I am now. I was very shy and very withdrawn. So it's not like I was as opinionated and outspoken as I am now.
So it's interesting that your dad and your sister is older than you, much older,
Yeah.
right? So think about them, him taking that stance and telling you that if your friends are not accepting of your sister, then they're not real friends, okay? Mm-hmm. So for a lot of the younger people who've come on, they're like in a place of, I need to tell my friends, or how do I get my friends? But there are some of them who've also made the comments by themselves without parents saying to them, if your friend isn't accepting of your sibling, then that there's no point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for those that are still in a place, I know we can't say it enough that you need to not really like be in people's faces, but like we say, own your issues, but again
Own
trying
your
to.
truth.
So how do we get siblings, the younger ones, and then even older ones who are in a place of perhaps not accepting, to just take ownership of the situation and get other people to realize that they need to be more accepting of what we're going through?
Okay. I would say, first of all, you can't help anybody else before you, unless you help yourself first. So it's getting to a place of acceptance within yourself, and that's a process. It's for a lot of people, it's not going to happen overnight. For me, it did not happen overnight. Like I said, I was 13, and it took understanding or trying to understand, especially at a young age, about my sister and why is Mickey different? Why is it that she can't speak? And asking questions. Because I was an inquisitive child, I asked questions. So I think for those who are watching, it's ask questions. If maybe you're not comfortable asking your parents questions because you don't have the kind of parents that are open to answering questions, you have the internet. There's a vast, you know, number of places that you can find information from. As I always say, Google is your friend. Use Google, check, research, read. Reading is so important. I know that we get so much from social media now. We spend so much on social media. If you're not somebody who likes reading, follow the pages, find out the pages. That's how I found out a lot of handles in Nigeria that actually offer services, health, etc. There are Facebook groups. I don't know about Twitter, but I know that there are Facebook groups, there are resources on Instagram and Google. Google so that you can educate yourself. Once you educate yourself, and also once you get to a point where you're like, okay, you know what? This is my sibling. This is, if it's not your sibling, then maybe it's your cousin, etc. This is my loved one, whatever the situation is. I either have the option to accept or not. And then look within. How does it make you feel? Do you think you're doing the right thing? Because I know that there are instances of people who are not willing to accept their siblings. And that, I'm not going to judge you. That's your prerogative. I don't agree with it. But I actively decided, this is my sister. I love her. I love her just as much as I love my siblings who are, vocal. How different is she from me? There's certain things that she can do that I can't do. Yes, there are. So focus on those things and focus on the fact that this is my sibling. I love her irrespective. And that's me personally. I understand that other people have challenges, but if you want to overcome those challenges, then you have to actively educate yourself, work on yourself. And like I said, it's a process. It won't happen overnight. Take the time, and hopefully you get to a good place.
I like that bit of actively work on your active, because we're in a culture where it's so easy. People just sit down. Okay, so we go, oh, you first of all go the blame route, and then you end up blaming God, and then you question God.
Yeah.
Okay, God has to solve all of this, and then we're sitting down. And I'm telling people, okay, well, even if you're expecting God to do something, what are you doing about it? So that being active, taking a step to do something, and not just praying, okay, and just
That's it.
just sit down. So if you look at it from that spiritual angle, how have you had to deal with it, or like the whole family as well? How have you had to deal with it, in terms of the spiritual element?
I honestly believe that because I didn't grow up here, that was probably one of the major factors as to why we weren't in a situation or in an environment where people thought it was a spiritual issue. I didn't grow up in Nigeria. I didn't go to high school here or university. So I think that really sort of formed my opinions. I was very fortunate that I was in an environment where the friends that I did have in high school, thank God, were accepting of my sister. I remember, in fact, two friends of mine actually had a better relationship with my sister than I think I did. Whenever they would come over to visit, she was excited. She'd be smiling and happy, which is not necessarily something she always does with the rest of us, apart from my brother. So that spiritual thing that we have in Nigeria, where it's a spiritual problem, or go and pray, it's going to be cured. No, I didn't go through that. But coming here and speaking to people and realizing that they felt, okay, if I pray it, I can pray it. And look, I'm Catholic. I believe in God. I believe in prayers. And I do think that prayers work. But at the end of the day, if it is that you have relied solely on prayers and there haven't been any tangible changes, then you need to seek professional help. It's the same way that if you're ill and you're able-bodied and you have prayed and you've gone to the mountain and you fasted for, I don't know, 1 month, and your condition is not getting better, you need to then go and get professional help. And I will use myself as an example in this instance where, I put up a post some time ago about having had fibroids and having had fibroid surgery. I had fibroids from when I was a teenager, and it progressively got worse. And I have spent weeks over the years, months over the years, praying, going to night vigils where people will pray for me to cure me of this situation. I didn't get cured. And I do not think that my belief was not strong enough or my faith was not strong enough. I didn't get cured. What saved me from this situation was having an operation and removing those fibroids. So as much as I believe in God, and I'm not knocking anyone's belief, if you have a loved one that is on the spectrum, there are now resources for you in this country. Get your loved one help. Get them the help they need. Find resources for yourself, because at the end of the day, not only does your loved one need the support and the professional help and advice, you need it too, because it's a lot. I'm not a parent of someone on the spectrum. I'm a sibling, so I don't have that responsibility that a lot of parents have of raising a loved one on the spectrum. But you also need that support. And if you can get that support from your church, fantastic. Or from your religious leader, fantastic. You get it from the mosque, your imam, wonderful. If not, get it from groups of people who are in the same situation as you, or who empathize with your situation and have created groups and resources to help you.
Great. There's somebody that's put, I'm not sure which I am keen, quick. What would you love to be remembered for long after you're gone?
I don't think that's relevant to this conversation, is it?
How to with the the context, present context.
Honestly, I can't say that, because bearing in mind the context, I can't say that I've actually really thought about that, but perhaps just that I made some sort of difference, and that I used my platform or my voice for some good. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just wondering, how does that fit? But anyway, I hope the person is satisfied with that. So now, if you don't mind my asking, like, how old is your sister?
She's in her 50s. Yeah.
So,
she's in her late 50s.
Talking of her 50s here, I want to point out that even 50 years ago, even in England, even in the US, autism was still in its infancy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even till date, still ongoing, all the studies. But when you come into our own environment, okay, here in Africa, Nigeria, where 50 years, we're just talking of having help in the last couple of years, like 10 to 13 years. Now, picture somebody in their 50s. How would the parents have coped?
Honestly speaking, I remember having a conversation with my father years ago where I just, asked him how he coped, and he didn't go into detail, but I know that it's not been easy. It probably was a lot, maybe easier when we lived abroad, when we lived in Australia, it definitely was easier there because she was in a school. So there were definitely more resources there available than when they decided to move to Nigeria. At which point I was already in university when they moved here. So I wasn't here with them. I didn't know what that situation was like. But I know that it kind of moved in. I think that's also another reason why I'm so passionate about it, because I did go through a period where I was praying. You know, you talked about spirituality beforehand. I was praying and I said, God, can you just heal her? Can you, because you can do anything, can you just heal her? Can you make her speak? Please make her speak. Oh God, I'm not going to get emotional. I'm an emotional person. I don't necessarily seem like I am, but I remember times when I was saying, well, you know, if you have to take something away from me so that she can speak, do that, so that she can have a normal life. So it was frustrating for me as a sibling. So I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what it's been like for my father, and let alone for my father, but for her. You know, sometimes when I sit and I think, and I'm just like, I can go about and do everything and anything that I want, but she can't. What is that like? You know, what is it like for her? And so that's another reason I think why I'm so passionate about this. And I feel that those who have loved ones who are not in SSTs, who are younger, please don't, you know, don't leave it. Not because my dad didn't have an option. He did the best that he could, but because, like you said, 50 years ago, 30 years ago, you really didn't have as many resources that were available. So he did the best that he could with what was available to him. But now, because there are so many more resources for people, I think, and maybe this is going to sound harsh, but I think that it is criminal if you are a parent and your child is young, and I mean by young in their, you know, in the early stages of their life, anywhere from the ages of 2 till 19, 20, or even if they're in their 20s, if you can afford it, that you must do something. It is your duty as a parent to do something. And if it is as a parent that's, because I don't know who's watching, if parents are not doing anything, if you as a sibling have another sibling who's on the spectrum and you're old enough and you can do something, it is your responsibility to seek out centers, research, find resources so that you can help your sibling if your parents are not able to. And there are resources out there that are free. And there are centers that actually offer subsidized help. You found me through a friend of mine and we got talking. I found Mrs. Akande at Patrick's because I decided, okay, you know what, I live in Lagos. My sister's not here, but she's going to come and spend time. I'm going to find a place. So I actively decided to research and find a place so that when she comes here, she has somewhere to go to and things to do that she was able to do abroad but isn't able to do here now that she lives in Abuja. So it's a responsibility that you must take. I don't think I am better than anybody else because I have decided to do so. You have to actively decide to do so. And if you love somebody, at the end of the day, if you are married or you have a boyfriend, let me give that example, and you're in love, you will do everything and anything for that husband, wife, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend. Do the same for your loved one that's on the spectrum. Do the same. It's not easy. I'm not going to lie. It's not easy, but it's important and it's worth it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, because that's something I keep stressing for parents. I say, or anybody that's a caregiver, I say to them that if you don't provide help or, you know, for this individual in your life that you care so much for and about, it's selfish, because it's on yourself, even if you're sorry for yourself, whatever you're doing. And at the end of the day, it's being selfish, because really you're not thinking about that person's well-being, especially for younger children, like you said. And I say to them, if you die, think about the fact that you die, you exit this world, right? And that child or that person is still here while you're gone. What happens when you don't provide the help? So that takes me sort of to the next question of What are some of the fears that you have as a sibling regarding your sister, and what are some of the steps that you've taken or anybody else can take
Mm.
to address these fears?
You know what? I think at different stages in your life, you have different fears. When I was younger, it was the fear that would she ever have a life of her own? Because I was young and I was dreaming of, doing whatever it was and having a family of my own. I thought, will she ever have that opportunity? So that was that fear. Now the fear is my father's getting older. That time will come. What's going to happen? Who's going to be responsible for her? And so my siblings and I, my older siblings and I have two older sisters, Mickey, who is on the spectrum, Najite, who some of you may know, who's my older sister as well, and then my brother, the eldest brother, Joe. We've had conversations, several conversations over the years that, okay, what's going to happen? Who is she going to live with? There's certain sacrifices that we're going to have to make. Who can she come and live with? I am the single one in the family. I don't have a family of my own yet. Is it something that whoever it is I end up with is going to be okay with? He's going to have to be okay with. So that's another thing that also comes into it when you're thinking about choosing a partner. I definitely cannot end up with somebody who has issues with people that are not able-bodied in any way. I can't end up with that sort of person, and I won't. By God's grace, I will not. I have to say amen to that, because by God's grace, I will not. So it's taking steps to actually find out what are the resources in the city that I live in. What are the things that I'm going to have to do? Like I said, my siblings and I have had lengthy discussions over the years. Okay, where is the best place for her to go to when she does come and live with either myself or with my sister? Because we're the ones that are in Nigeria now. What will happen? We will have to get a carer for her. It cannot just be a house help. It cannot just be a house help. It has to be a house help that is trained. Okay, what are the cost implications, financial implications of this? Because it's not going to be free. It's going to cost money. We need to make sure that we save for that sort of thing. We plan for that sort of thing. Actively reaching out, which is something I discussed with you as well when you said you offer training. And I said, okay, well, who can you suggest? Because this is something that we need to start thinking about now. I don't want to wait for that time to come. So there's a lot that you have to do. And it also is going to affect my life as well, to be honest. Not just a relationship, but my work life. Because of the kind of work that I do, which is why my sister and I have had conversations. Okay, what happens when we're on set, when we're filming? We can't take her with us when we're on set when we're filming. There are times when we may be filming and come back home at 1 o'clock in the morning like we do. What happens in those instances? What happens in the instances where both of us are filming, which has actually happened when Nikki has come to visit, where coincidentally, Najite had to be on set. I had to be on set. Okay, what were we going to do in that situation? We made arrangements, but it's something that in the future there has to be a permanent arrangement where there is someone who is professionally trained to be with her. That person is going to have to be spending the night, because it can't be a house help that has to go home at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. or whatever it is. And even if it is a house help, that house help has to be educated to understand that this is the situation. And then the question of how house help also comes into it, or carer comes into it. Can I trust this person with my loved one? Because that is something that all parents who have loved ones on the spectrum are going to have to think about, not just us, the siblings. Can I trust this person with my loved one? Thankfully, I'm a very intuitive person. I'm very observant as well. And so I watch how people treat other people. And I watch how you manage certain situations, even though you may think I'm not really paying attention to that. And it's also how do you make me feel? You can be very nice to me. You can be very nice to me, but it doesn't mean that you're a nice person. So I watch out for little things like that. And would I feel comfortable leaving my sibling with this person? One of the most important things for me, because she's non-vocal, is I would not leave her with a man. I'm not saying that women don't abuse, but I would not leave her with a man. I would not not feel comfortable leaving. If I had a child, I would not feel comfortable leaving my child with a male house help. So I'm not going to do it with my sibling.
I get it.
So that means I'm not leaving her with a male cook. I'm not leaving her with a male house help, cleaner, whatever. Even though my cleaner is great and I trust him, I leave him alone in my house, but I would not leave him alone with my siblings because she can't speak and tell me he did this or whatever the case may be. And even if it's a female house help, can I trust her? It has to be somebody that I trust. So to cut a long story short, sorry, because I can sometimes go on and on, it's making sure that whoever it is you decide to leave your loved one with is somebody that you can trust. So if it's somebody that comes recommended, that has possibly worked for somebody else that you know, a family that you know of, even if the person doesn't have that experience, it's safer to probably get that person, if you can, if they're no longer working for that family and didn't leave on bad terms because they did something wrong, to come and work for you. You then educate them after you've educated yourself. Because you can't just say, okay, well, you took care of this person's child who's my friend for 10 years and you did a good job. Come and work for me. This is my loved one. Take care of them. No, because they don't understand. It's like the person that I have that, is my house help. When she came and when Mickey came and she met her and everything, she was greeting her as she would greet me. She was talking to her as she would talk to me, which is fine. That's what I don't want you to treat her differently. But then one of the things that she would do is that she would knock on the door, for example, when breakfast is ready. And if Mickey isn't coming out, she's not sort of going back again to say, Auntie Mickey, the food is ready. She's coming to me to say, Mickey has not come out of her room. And I said, okay, so knock on the door like you're doing and then check. When I was taking her out to whether it's the doctor or to the dentist or we're going out, I would take her out with me and I would say to her, okay, you see in this situation, for example, if Mickey wants to go to the bathroom, she's going to go off and go look for it. She doesn't know where it is. She doesn't really know Lagos like that. You need to follow her. You need to be the one to speak for her. Because there's some instances where I will not be around and I will not be able to do that. Najite will not be around and she will not be able to do that. So you need to do that. And for her, it was, she just couldn't kind of grasp what was wrong or what the situation was or what I was trying to get her to do. And I think you have to be very gentle and patient. Because just because you're accepting, you can't expect that somebody else is going to automatically be accepting. So for us, we know that this woman is a great person. There's potential there. But in the long run, is this really going to be the right person, especially as she has young children in family? Probably not. Probably not. So the search continues. So it's important to really make a plan. And if you don't, like me, you don't have siblings who are, willing to have that discussion with you, and maybe you're on your own, you have to make a plan by yourself. Using those resources that are available to find out and research and reach out to people like you for help and advice. This is the situation that I'm in. I only know so much. Can you advise me on what more to do?
And, like I said, as a mom, because I have an autistic daughter as well. So those issues, those lived experiences, those worries, those concerns are very real. We can't diminish them or just say, oh no, get on with it. Okay? But like you said, what are we going to live in a place of fear? Do we want to keep operating from a place of fear, or just weigh ourselves down, maybe to the point where where we develop some medical issues ourselves, maybe hypertension or whatever it is? No. But like you said, leverage on whatever resources, educate ourselves, and something that you said, getting the person to stay with her, for instance, that individual also needs to be educated, because that's part of the issue that I think we have. So the resources, or the so-called resources, or whoever is out there, how much training, how do they understand this thing called autism? Do you understand? How do they know? So for us, I think bringing them into our environments to take care of our loved ones, our siblings, and also should come with not too much of expectation from them, but
Yes.
we need to do a lot of educating still.
Exactly.
Typical example, if I go to the doctor's office, for instance, and I'm sitting there, the doctor isn't going to know what to do unless I speak up. So we have to educate the environment. We have to tell them what our needs are. We have to show them how to meet our needs because it's our need. And for each person that's on the spectrum, they are different. Their needs are different. Your sister's needs will obviously different from my daughter's needs, will be different from the next person's.
In the same way that you and I have different needs.
Yeah.
In the same way that
Yeah.
you and I have, no two people with autism are the same. In the same way that you and I know we have similarities and things in common, but none of us are the same. And you know, you mentioned something about going to the doctor. That was one of the things that I actually found that was challenging here. And I think that there needs to be more education and awareness in the medical field of basically how to handle clients, how to handle different clients. Like this assumption that everybody is the same. No, because you have situations, not just people that are on the spectrum, but different people in different situations where how do you as a doctor, how is your bedside manner with this person?
Yeah.
I've had conversations with certain people where I've tried to explain the situation. Okay, you know, I'm bringing my sister in and they're very sort of dismissive or they're not empathetic. I don't want to go to a doctor. Why would I want to take her to a doctor? Fortunately, I mean, really, thank God. And this was because of Mrs. Akande Patrick. She put me in touch with a doctor at a hospital in Lagos, and it was like a breath of fresh air having a conversation with this man. Had he ever seen an adult on the spectrum before? No, he hadn't. Is he somebody that has specialized in this? No, he hasn't. But he's met with several children who have been either on the spectrum or have had different, you know, concerns. And so his bedside manner is just better. That hospital, their manner from the receptionist to the nurses, it was amazing. It was amazing.
And the empathy, you know,
the empathy, no,
even
the empathy that I saw her experience in that hospital. I started thinking, okay, you know, maybe I need to actually register myself in this hospital as well, because I've never seen it in Nigeria. I've never seen it in Nigeria, and I think that hospital is just, maybe they're just an exception. I don't know.
That's
just an exception.
Yeah, that's, you know, that's good to hear. That's good to know, you know, because I mean, I can't remember what month it was. I mean, my sister-in-law, she's a medical doctor. She's not around, but she was like, you know, you need to teach my class, my set of doctors about this thing. I'm like, said no, seriously, they don't teach them in medical school about autism or any of these things. I'm like, so what do you want me to say? He said everything. Just we don't know anything. So
that's fantastic.
So they don't. It's not part of their training. They'll probably just mention to them. Do you understand? But not really like the details. So there's a whole lot to be done. And I think as a community, we really it's not about, and that's why for me it's not just about that April, that autism awareness. You know what I mean? As a community, we need to keep speaking. So as siblings, we need to speak. As professionals, we need to speak. As parents, we need to speak. And that's why when I realized that even with my own children, I hadn't explained in depth to my daughter's sisters and everybody around the extent of what autism was, or empowered them enough. I was like, oh my gosh, I started speaking, and then it dawned on me that there will be similar people or similar issues out there, and hence all of this thing about siblings perspective and all of that, and then hoping to bring on even parents and other caregivers as well, because everybody would have a different perspective or affected them in their own life from a different angle. You know what I mean? So it's really, really interesting what you say. I'm just trying to flick through. I thought I saw something that looked like a question.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well, but I missed it.
None, right? Maybe it's just my imagination. Okay. So is there like any, I don't like parting words okay? I don't like saying, oh, any parting words or whatever. What other nuggets? Because I know that, IG, they have this thing about, I don't even know, is it 40 minutes or 1 hour? They just, you
And
won't
they
be able to
and they log you up.
your life later. So I try to manage it in such a way that, you know. So, what are some of the other? Because I'm really thinking 50. That's a lot. And I've had people who've come to us recently, maybe after listening to previous editions or somebody just mentioned, and I'm beginning to see people in their 20s, in their 40s
Mm-hmm.
coming now. Okay.
Mm.
So apart from this, what can we do? I know it may sound repetitive, but I really want people to
Mm.
come and begin to seek, to understand what's going on, not the help first, okay?
Mm-hmm.
To understand what's going on with that child, with their sibling, because these people that have come to me, they didn't have any name. They didn't know what was going on.
Mm.
To do a whole bunch of assessments and diagnosis, that sort of thing, for them to really understand and have a name. And they're like, finally, we know what's going on. Do you understand? So, what else? What can we do? Really, I want us to know, and I want people listening to go away with some of these tips. And in their family settings as well, you may see, oh, there's a cousin, there's somebody who's you're not quite sure, and you're keeping mum. You don't want to say anything. How
I,
can we
I,
encourage you to?
I think number one, because we're Africans, because we're Nigerian, then there is this culture of
Yeah,
silence or stigma when it comes to anything that we deem not normal, and that goes for even when people don't have any sort of disabilities, for lack of a better word. I think that's just a Nigerian thing. It's or an African thing. This person is different, so we don't want to know. I think it's important, first of all, to get your place within yourself, which is why I said that it's a process that you go through or that you decide to go through. I am going to decide to think differently. That's number one. I can't continue to be influenced by what society dictates. That's the main thing, really. So number one and two.
so we
I
have to
have a loved one
go
on
on.
the spectrum, or I know somebody that has a loved one on the spectrum. Don't be dismissive about the things that you see out there, which is why I had said earlier, you have to decide to educate yourself. If your parents are not willing to do it, if your extended family is not willing to do it, you have to decide to do it yourself. If you're the parent, then it's your responsibility to educate yourself. If your parents are no longer around and you happen to be watching this and you have a loved one that's on the spectrum, it's your responsibility to educate yourself. You cannot do anything unless you educate yourself first. So once you educate yourself and once you work on acceptance, really, accepting the situation that your sibling is in, accepting the situation that you are going to be in as a result of that, because that also has to happen. Then hopefully you get to a place where you're more comfortable. I was going to say at peace, but I don't think that's the right word, where you're more comfortable and aware of the fact that there are certain things that I have to do because I have decided to be responsible. I have decided to educate myself. I have decided to research to make sure that I am knowledgeable and therefore I know how to treat my sibling better and therefore know how to teach people how to treat my sibling better.
Yeah.
Because when you get there, then you will get to a place where you have reached a place of acceptance and therefore you are not ashamed, because I think that's a major problem in Nigeria. It's that thing of you're ashamed. What will people say? What will my friends say? What will the pastor say? What will this person say? What other people say is not your business. What other people think is a reflection of them. Don't let it be a reflection of you. So educate yourself. Get to a place of acceptance. Because once you accept, then it's easier for others in your life to accept. You will then be able to, you're not going to necessarily give them reels and reels or pages and pages of information to read. You have that knowledge yourself, and then that way you can educate.
Yeah.
I remember, my friends came over on my birthday, and my sister was around, and they were like, oh, they know about her. They're like, oh, Mickey's around. Now, had I been somebody that had not accepted, not educated myself, I possibly would have kept her in the room the whole time that I was there because I was ashamed. That's not going to happen. So you have to get to a place where you feel like that as a parent, as a sibling, as a loved one, as somebody that's on the spectrum. And in that process, you will then feel more encouraged to actually seek out those who can help you. If your knowledge reaches the point where you feel like you can't go any further, you don't know what else to do, you are there to help. There are other organizations that are there to help. You just have to be willing to reach out. And it's okay to say you don't know. It's okay not to know. I didn't know. And how would I have found out unless I reached out to people to say, okay, you know what? I need help. I need some advice. What should I do? My sister's on the spectrum. Is this possible? Is this not possible? Can I bring her to come and meet you? That was how even, for my sister, even though she had been diagnosed obviously with my dad and I was a lot younger, I didn't know. But for me, it was okay. I want a second opinion. Patrick's is there. That was the only resource I knew about here in Lagos. So, Mrs. Akande, can I come with my sister to meet you? Oh, yeah, sure. Took her there. She did her assessment. This is the situation. Okay, what's the way forward? What are your suggestions? And it's not just, expect the other person to do everything for you because they're knowledgeable, because that's what they do. That's the service they offer. No, it's not their responsibility. It is yours. And accepting that it is your responsibility will allow you to think in a different way and to be more open to actually finding out more information. Like I said, it's not easy. I'm speaking English here. There are times when honestly, I'm frustrated. There are times where I just feel, oh, what is the solution, God? Why couldn't you just let her speak? Why does she have to go through all of this? And I'm very honest about it. Because I think that's the only way people will know that, okay, you know what? Nobody is perfect. It's all a process, and you're learning every day. For you as a mother of someone on the spectrum, I'm sure there are things that you learn every day. It may be different for you slightly because you're a specialist, but I'm not. I'm just a human being who happens to have a sister that I love immensely, dearly, that is on the spectrum. Do I want her life to be better? Yes. Do I wish that she could have a life like you and I, where she can go where she wants to and do what she wants to do? Of course I do, but that's not the situation. And one of the things my eldest sister just said to me, I think a couple of months ago, she said, you are struggling with the fact and you don't want to verbalize the fact that in some ways Mickey is like a child. And we're having this conversation on the phone and I got emotional and I started crying and I was angry that she was even saying that because I was like, no, she's not a child, she's just an adult who can't speak and there's certain things she can't do for herself. But then I realized, you know what, that is something, that is true. And I had to admit, I said, you know what, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, because it's like having a child in an adult body. There's certain things she can do for herself. It's not like you have to dress her or bathe her or, no.
Mm-hmm. True.
But when it comes to certain things, she is childlike. And so I have to bear that in mind. In my interactions sometimes, or when I expect her to know about certain things.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because my father decided to move back to Nigeria where there weren't as many resources, I feel that she's regressed a lot because she used to be able to write. She was learning how to do all of that. There were a lot of things that she knew how to do that she now does not know how to do. I think a lot of those things are there. It's because, like with you and I, there are things that we knew how to do as children, and if you don't practice them, you lose it. It's like Portuguese. I spoke Portuguese fluently. Now, no. So if you don't keep practicing those things, you lose those things. I was very good at pottery when I was a child. Now, I'm sure I probably create nonsense.
It's gone.
Yes. But then if it is that I start doing those things again, I will pick them up because it's there.
Yeah. True.
So it's also being, and it requires a huge amount of patience.
Yeah, yeah, and something like you said about losing those skills. So we shouldn't also be in a place of that we want to provide all that help and we're pampering and at the same time or inadvertently now disabling the
Yes,
person.
yes.
Sometimes cautious. Oh no, don't do this. Oh, you can't do
Oh,
that.
no, 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 no. That's important. I think that's very important.
You know what I mean? And then at the end of the day, we end up um, doing more harm than good that we
No,
intended.
absolutely, you're right. If
You
it
know,
is that you don't, if it is that you don't let them do things themselves or teach them how to do things themselves, then they won't.
and then they
It's
become
like when for us when she comes to visit me in Lagos, she's gonna use that microwave herself.
exactly.
She's going to use the microwave herself. I'm not letting her maybe turn on the gas and cook or whatever it is because she may not remember to turn it off, which is dangerous. But
Yeah,
you've seen me use the microwave. You've seen me warm up food. You've seen the house help bright warm up food for you. So you can also do it yourself. This is what you press. This is things like that.
because
This
we
is where this goes. This is where that goes. Because
yeah,
at the end of the day, as much as she's childlike in certain ways, she's not an infant.
yeah,
I'm not going to treat her like
like
an infant.
an invalid. Exactly, exactly. All the
And nor
other
will I allow anybody else that's in my environment to treat her like an infant.
yeah.
I do want to say something though, and I know it's not something that you asked a question about, but because I feel like this is a big thing in Africa, and I say Africa because I don't know if anybody from any other African country is watching. But I did mention it a little bit about the fact that you have to get to a place of acceptance and not be ashamed. And that I think it's criminal if you're not willing to accept your loved one who is different from you. I believe that it is one of the most important things, one of the most important things before sort of creating awareness or you want to campaign for a cause or etc. If you are not willing to accept and not be embarrassed and not be ashamed of your loved one
Yep,
that
yep,
is on the spectrum or that has any other condition, any other, whatever that may be,
yep,
whether it's Down syndrome, whatever it may be, if you are not willing to accept it, then you are the problem.
yeah,
And I'm sorry if that sounds, actually, I'm not sorry if that sounds harsh. You are the problem. You need to work on yourself. I do understand that it takes a lot to get to a place of acceptance, but you need to work on it. If you are ashamed, then there is a problem. You are the problem, not your
yep.
loved one.
But love,
You are the problem. So for those that are hiding their loved ones away or don't speak about them or deny them or lock them up, I believe in karma. I do. I'm sorry. I believe in karma. I also believe in God vindicating people. That person is a child of God too. You're claiming child of God. You're going to church. You're going to the mosque. You're praying. Oh, I'm wonderful. I'm this. But then you're denying your loved one that's on the spectrum or with any other disability.
yeah.
Sorry, it will catch up with you. That is my belief.
Abio.
That is my belief.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it does come round one way or the other. Even when people refuse to help, maybe you send them to schools or send them, whatever environment, and you're like, oh, this one, no, 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 I can't deal with this. But, you know, like you said, we end up reaping what we sow. So we better just sow good, so, so help,
It's very simple.
so inclusivity, so everything that is positive in and around these people. Okay. Well, Michelle, we can go on and on and on about, but like I said, these guys are beginning to beep. They will refuse
Okay.
to do
So
that
we're okay. So we have to end it.
after one, once it goes past 1 hour. I don't know why. But what I would like to say is a big thank you. I know
Thank you
we
to.
um like I said, we can go on. So what we're going to do is that any other time you want to come on or you want to bring any of your other siblings or whoever, just let me know whenever
Okay.
you're free, and we will just come back on because this topic doesn't end. It does
It
not end.
doesn't do. It
It doesn't
doesn't.
There's so
I
many other
hope
questions in my mind and what I want to ask, but I just know that these people are just going to
to end
just
it soon. I hope, I mean, those that are watching, at least I hope that they
they're
got
just going
some sort of insights. I don't know if we covered everything that people may have wanted to hear. I don't know how much time there is left, but if anybody has a question
yeah,
specifically that they want to ask,
yeah,
um,
but I
I
have
can answer that now before we go. Thank you for educating us. Ella, thank you, Ella.
I'm looking, I haven't seen educating us. Okay, you're amazing, blah blah blah. That's all their thanks. Okay. Thank you everybody for
Thank
tuning.
you.
Thank you, Michelle, for
You're
coming. We
welcome.
shall continue, please, please, please. But for now, give you a virtual hug. Huh? Thank you very much. We will
And I
just
will see you when you're back.
yes, please. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Take care. Bye bye. Oh,
All
she said
right.
she
Bye.
asked the question. Okay, I mentioned it. Okay. All right. Bye. Bye bye.